This is the Build Right podcast, where business and construction come together. Each week, we talk with builders and industry leaders about what it really takes to run a world-class construction company. If you're ready to build better and lead smarter, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Build Right podcast. I'm your host, Scott Raffensperger. With me today is Jeramiah Kutey. Say hi, Jeremiah.
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Oh, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you do, Jeremiah?
Hardscape company. So we do a lot of hardscape, retaining walls, patios, and then we're branching into a lot of site development. A lot of the solar work that's going on, getting into that, the land clearing, roadways, drainage, civil construction type stuff. It's just kind of that next step for us.
So hardscape, dirt work.
Yep.
Is that where you started?
Smaller scale. I mean, you got to work into that to obviously have the machines and stuff like that. We started landscaping, doing small mulch jobs, anything that I could. Started out super young. I was always watching my father. I wanted to go with him every single day. 5 years old, I wanted to skip school. I wanted to sit in his dump truck and learn everything that I could. I just always paid a lot of attention to that stuff and just loved it. So it just kind of evolved into just getting a little older, a little bit more experience, and then started doing a little work for like our neighbors, little mulch jobs and stuff like that. And then it just grew into what we got now.
So you're not second generation, technically. Your dad did some of the work, but you've built this thing on your own, correct?
Yep. So he was a lot smaller scale. He did a lot of smaller landscape stuff like that. Didn't really get into the hardscape. There was some here and there. And for some reason, I really liked that from a super young age. There was something about it. It was just kind of that next step is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging. And it kind of separates. Anybody can go buy a pickup truck, start doing mulch. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but I want that challenge. I want to do something a little bit more creative, a little bit harder, more difficult. There's obviously more profit, and the more difficult something is, it's skill level. So that's just something I like, and I was good at it and ran with it.
How old are you?
29. I just turned 29.
Oh, man. When did you start?
So technically when I was 16. That's when I started. I had my own pickup truck. That's what I started with. Literally just a 300,000 mile Ford F-150. And that's where it got going. I would just did little odds and ends, just weird things. I'd be talking to a neighbor or be at my grandparents' house, walk down the street and someone's yard was a mess. And I'd go introduce myself, just knock on the door. Hey, I'm Jeramiah Kutey. Are you possibly interested in maybe doing some mulch or anything like that? And 90% of the time when you're a young kid that's out there going to get it, it just worked out, and just did the absolute perfect job that I could. I mean, just nitpicking every little thing. When someone's doing mulch, there's no mulch left over like on the bushes. When you dump a wheelbarrow on the foundation, when you're done, you're making sure that line is completely straight on that foundation, just making sure everything is perfect. That little extra step goes a long way, especially when you're young, because these people see that. And they're like, wow, this kid knows what he's doing. He cares what he's doing. And that's the biggest thing. When someone sees that you care what you're doing, the sky's the limit.
I've got so many different directions to go with what you just said. But to start, when you were doing those little jobs, did you know you wanted to get into hardscape, or is that something that evolved?
It kind of evolved because I was just kind of taking it day by day. I wanted to do anything possible that was productive, that I could make money, and I loved it. I didn't really care about the money. Obviously, I had to make money, but I really genuinely loved doing that.
Right.
I didn't want to be sitting playing video games. All my friends, they like to play video games and stuff like that. I wanted to do something. At the end of the day, oh, I did that. It's cool. It makes you feel good.
The gratification of it. Yeah. Did you work somewhere else before you?
Yep.
Got full bore on your own?
Yep. So that's a whole rabbit hole. And so I started doing smaller landscape stuff when I was like 16 in high school. And then nights, believe it or not, I worked for UPS. So I would go to school during the day. I would load trucks at UPS at night. And then if it wasn't a school day, I would go to a sawmill, that guy I want to touch base with as well. That's one of my mentors. He taught me a ton. But just always doing something. So the UPS was my first real job. And the only reason I wanted to do that, because I wanted a real job. That's the way I looked at it. Is I wanted a paycheck, a guaranteed paycheck at the end of the week, and just see what it was like. Which looking back now is crazy. I mean, doing my schoolwork, loading trucks at night, and then weekends going to a sawmill or school, and I made it work. I got good grades. I wasn't a straight A student, but I made it all work. You just manage your time. On the school bus, you're doing your homework and just making it happen. And then that went on till I think I was around 18. So that was like 2 years of just kind of mismatched work, stuff like that. And then an opportunity came up with a company called Straight Line. A buddy of mine that worked there, he's like, "Oh, do you need a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want out of UPS." Like that was terrible.
Explain what Straight Line is.
So it's a highway marking company. So we paint all the lines on the road. And I didn't know what I was getting hired for. I just showed up. And I remember that first day I was just sweeping in the shop. I just staying out of everybody's way, and just keeping busy. I don't want to ask, what do you want me to do next? What do you want me to do? Just, there's always something to do. And I swept the shop. That floor was spotless.
A lot of that's done at night, right?
It's around the clock. It's literally around the clock. That entire company is the baddest group of dudes there is. Like it's just insane. The hours and how hard those guys work. And it taught me so much at a young age of, wow, these guys are real deal. But like I said, I started sweeping the shop, and then it was a temp truck. So that's what I did, which is waterborne paint. So like right behind the paver, we're putting down the temporary lines. So it's just around the clock. And they're like, "Oh, do you want to run a paint truck?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll make it happen." It's $1 million truck. I mean, it was pretty cool to be that young, and they're trusting me to run this thing. I mean, there's pressures and gauges, and it taught me so much about all this mechanical stuff, which was cool. And I was there 4 or 5 years.
Don't talk it up too much. You're probably like, everybody quit. So who's left? Jeremiah, you want to run the paint truck? Yeah, no,
pretty much. No, dude, it's serious.
No, I'm kidding.
But yeah. So what I did with that, I mean, it's ridiculous hours, and it just worked out. Every right place, right time. I didn't want to be at home because home life wasn't good at that time. So we're living out of a hotel. So I'm making great money, saving every bit of it. What I would do is my entire check would go into my savings account. I would transfer $200 a week. That was my food and fuel to get to Straight Line. And then we lived out of a hotel. They paid for everything. And just literally around the clock. I have one of my time cards saved, 104 hours in 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. It's just delirious. I mean, we would make more overtime than we would straight pay. A slow week was 70 hours, and just pushing yourself to that limit around the clock it was a lot, but I could do it, and it makes you feel good. And that really got me going. That let me save up the money that I needed to start buying equipment. And I still try to do odds and ends. So like we would still work weekends a lot of the time, especially towards the end of the year before things froze. But I would always just try to schedule stuff for the weekend. Any little thing that I could. I bought my first new truck, trailer, and it basically just sat there. But I knew long term in my head, this wasn't my forever thing. I knew what I wanted to do. So I just started working towards that, buying all the little odds and ends and tools. I remember the first wheelbarrow. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but I paid $400 for this fancy wheelbarrow and all that. And I was like, wow. And it just sat there. But I knew I was coming back to it. And I'm glad that I did what I did.
A lot of foresight, but also discipline.
Yeah.
Especially at 19 years old, 20 years old when you were working there, like to not spend that money.
Yep.
Not go buy a Corvette or something. A lot of people would do that.
Yeah, that's a lot of guys that work there is you kind of get trapped in that. And I saw that as soon as I started there. I mean, there's nowhere you're making that kind of money, especially at that age. And you get kind of trapped in there, and that you got that money cloud over your head because once you get accustomed to spending that amount of money, you're trapped. It's not about how much money you make, it's how much you keep. And that's something that I've always lived by. That's like I said, that guy at the sawmill, that's something that he taught me. He goes, you can be working at McDonald's flipping burgers, whatever, that's completely fine. But if you're saving every dollar you make, you're still ahead of the guy that's making $1 million a year and spending $1 million a year. So what's the point?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot as far as business growth and investing and living below your means is a huge key to being successful, especially later on once you get into your own business.
Yep.
What was the break even, or not the break even, excuse me, the breaking point for you when you're like, I'm out of here, dude. This is over.
That's a good one. And that was a turning point kind of like in my life. So at that time, I was living with one of my friends, living in his house. I was never really there because we were working so much. I was in a terrible relationship. I was out of town. I was just miserable, just whatever. And I was just getting really burnt out of the straight line thing. I'm like, why am I working this hard for somebody else when I've got enough money saved and I just got to make that jump. But I was going nuts. So one day I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Literally booked a flight, went to Florida for a week. And I was standing on the bridge into Clearwater, went for a run. And I was just standing there and I was thinking to myself, I'm changing my life 180. I'm quitting straight line, breaking up with that girl, moving out of my buddy's house, just complete 180. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if I fail, at least I know I tried.
You can go back to straight line probably in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I'd never burn that bridge or anything like that. I would never do that. But I had to try. And it was the best decision by far that I ever made in my entire life. And everybody told me, oh, you're an idiot for leaving that. You're never going to make that kind of money, blah, blah, blah. I do that in a good month now.
Yeah.
So, and I love it. You know what I mean? That's the thing is I can work that hard for somebody else. Why can't I do it for myself? And I do.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
As far as mindset goes, you said you were making good money. You saved up a lot. Did you tell yourself, I'm going to save up $5,000, $50,000, $500,000? Like, was there a point where you said, okay, once I hit that, I'm going to take the jump, or it just kind of happened organically?
No, it just happened. It's one of those things. The water doesn't get any warmer waiting. You know what I mean? You jump in. So,
yeah. Mile wide, inch deep. Just take the step. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So what was your first job when you left Straight Line, your first big job? Do you remember?
Yep, I do. And I just stopped by there a couple weeks ago, believe it or not. And that's something that, I don't know, just a positive attitude, whatever it was. But that first year was insane. There were so many things that happened just by chance that it's way more than a coincidence. So weird. That first big job that I did was an older gentleman out in Duanesburg. And on the phone, you could kind of tell he kind of wasn't sure what he wanted. He's kind of just a little weird, but obviously I got to pursue it. I got no job now. I got to do something.
It didn't matter who it was, dude. You were showing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I go and he's got this whole big thing drawn out and all that. And I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty serious. Like, this is above what I'm comfortable doing, but we're going to push it. And for some reason, he believed in me. I mean, this was a huge job for someone that was my age at the time, very green. I'm sure you could tell.
How old were you at this point?
I was at Straight Line 4 years, so probably like 22, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you still look like you're freaking 22.
I know. It'll be nice when I'm old, but
no.
Had this whole layout of this job, and I was kind of going back and forth, and I quoted it a little high because I knew I had to have that safety net. You know what I mean? You can't quote a job, and this is before I knew pricing, anything like that. Like, I'm just literally learning how to do this, and it just worked out. It worked out perfect. The guy believed in me. The job turned out phenomenal. And I was thinking about it the other day, like, it still impresses me, this job, like looking at it after what I know now, all these elevation changes and stairs, and it's a raised patio and all this stuff. And it's literally perfect. You don't cut any corners. And this guy just believed in me, and it was cool as can be.
Yeah.
And he still calls me now and then. We're good friends now. He's probably in his late 80s now. But when I finished the job too, he sat me down when I was getting my last check and all that stuff. And I remember asking him, I go, is there anything that I can do differently, or something that you noticed or whatever? Because I just wanted to know, because it was a guy that I trusted. I would normally never do that with a customer, but it was just a different situation. And he told me a couple things. Just always be fair to the business. Make sure you're charging enough, because a lot of guys, they either have to make payroll, cash flow, stuff like that. Your numbers are your numbers. It either makes sense or it doesn't. The math doesn't lie. And he was just really old school dude. And
Did he own a business?
Yes, he did HVAC.
Okay.
And he sold that to, I believe, his nephew or something like that. But he just that old school generation of putting your head down, doing what's got to be done, not cutting corners, doing it right.
Mm-hmm. Did you lean on your dad for part of that project as far as the logistics of it, or just
none whatsoever? At that time, we weren't even zero. Yeah, there was nothing. It's a touchy subject.
Did you borrow any gear to get started?
What I did, I think the only thing at the time, I might have rented a plate tamper compactor. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if I bought one or not, but at that point, I had everything that I needed for the most part. Maybe a block splitter, just some weird little things like that. I either found it for sale or borrowed it from a buddy. But for the most part, I probably had 95% of everything that I needed.
Can you remember any early mistakes that almost sank you?
Fortunately, I don't. I don't have any of those big mistakes. I really try to safeguard myself and think through things so you don't get put in those situations. I mean, there's always things that do happen, but that's something that I've always been good at, is planning that job out ahead of time and preparing for things that could happen, and always having a solution ready to go at any time. And the more you do, the more you understand how this stuff works, so you catch those little things before they are a problem. So there's not a specific thing that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. You've gone through guys, correct? Do you have guys now?
Right now, it's just me.
Yeah. It's your solo entrepreneur. What's your week look like? Besides hectic as heck, probably.
It's that's something I keep going back and forth with myself is, do I want to hire on those two guys? So I had two guys that were both super young. I mean, and I cannot say enough about them. They are awesome. I mean, the dynamic that the three of us had, I'd put them up against any 10-man crew any day long. We'd all had our place. We all had our system. And it was literally a 1 in a million thing. All good things come to an end, which is fine. But I look at that as they were too good for what they were doing. Those two guys, they had both opportunities that came up that I'm not going to hold them back. I don't want to be that person to hold someone back, especially being young like that. They want to experience things and find out what they like, don't like. They're going to learn. They've learned everything that they're going to learn from me. Now it's their turn to learn from somebody else. Because when they started working with me, they were 18 years old. Mm-hmm. It literally looked like a group of kids showing up, but the finished product and how we work was something else. Mm-hmm. So,
would you are you going to look into hire now? Would you rehire guys?
It's one of those things. I'm not going out to find somebody right now. The system that I got in place with just me is working great. I'm one of those weird people. Is like, I'm going to compare it to having those two guys, and I'm not patient enough. It takes years to get that dynamic that you have with those guys. Mm-hmm. So the way I'm structuring things right now and long term, it's always going to be a problem finding labor. So I'm trying to kind of safeguard for that looking forward.
So how are you handling everything? Sales, billing, invoicing, estimating,
doing
sleep. The work? Yeah.
Literally no sleep. It's up at 5 a.m. every day, and I'm normally in bed 10, 11 o'clock. But that's like my system. If I get more sleep than that, I'm more tired than not. That's like that's my golden zone, I guess. I don't know.
I know you have a ton of equipment, which I'm assuming saves you a shit ton of time. Is there anything that you use administratively to help you?
I do things. I'm sure there are systems. I'm not comfortable with it. I do everything very old school. Pen and paper. There's notepads in my truck. Notepads with everything.
You had an iPad for a while.
No, it's in there. I still use that. Right. Yeah, I use that a lot. But as far as I'm just a control freak with stuff. I think that's part of the reason why I like doing it all myself, because there's not going to be a problem that arises, and if it does, it's my fault. It's on me. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm not that type of person to do that. I can handle the weight on my shoulders, so I do. That's just how I do things.
Do you have any time-saving hacks for people getting started? Like, what are some of the secrets you use to maximize your day?
Yep, that's a huge one. So what I do, there's a lot of little things that end up being big things. The list, that's something so simple. It literally costs you nothing. You have a $1.99 notepad and a pen. Plan out your next day. Write down everything that you want to get done. Write it down, and then you break that up in a smaller list of, all right, I need to do this, this, and this to get this done. This, and this. And it's unbelievable how much time that saves when you have something that you're looking at instead of being distracted and going here and there and all this. It just works out. And then on the actual job itself, if you work with me one day, you're going to think I'm a complete psychopath. But after a week, you're going to understand all those little things that I'm saying and doing, how much easier it makes it in the long run. Just even when you're pushing a wheelbarrow, when you're loading it, make sure it's pushing in the direction that when it's loaded. So when you're loading, you're not turning around, torquing it, thing falls over.
Efficiency.
That's the key. Efficiency with everything.
Do you always get all your checklist items done on your notepad, or about a dozen of them carry over the next day like they do for me? I never tend to get that whole.
So what I try to do is I try to keep it realistic. I mean, I have so many lists. I have my list for the week. I have my list for the day, and then that gets broken down. I try to keep that manageable where it doesn't carry over the next day. Because if you start checking off stuff for the next day's box, you're way ahead. Mm-hmm. I don't put too much in that basket where you're overloading yourself and it's carrying over. Mm-hmm. It's just a weird system. You get a feel for what you can actually get done, what's realistic, and that's what I do.
How do you stay physically and mentally sharp? Obviously, you're doing a lot of the work, so that probably keeps you in good physical shape. But mentally, preventing burnout. Have you ever been burnout?
I would say more with the straight line thing. Straight line. Yep, that was. But it taught me a lot. I mean, when you learn those limits, when you're doing 24 hours straight, like I said, 104 hours in 7 days, you know yourself. You learn who you are. I mean, after 24 hours, you get delirious, and then you wake back up, and it's one of those things is you can't screw off. I mean, you're literally in the middle of the highway with cars driving 60 miles an hour. One step, you're done. I've got a video of me being. It
sounds really safe, especially on zero sleep.
It's insane. It's insane. Jesus. But yeah, I have such a high respect for those guys. And my boss at the time, he worked the same way as I did. It was just, you never complain. It's got to get done. You do it. And it's that simple. And we hated each other the first 2 years. Just didn't get along. He left me on some job. We got in an argument 3 hours from home. I got picked up from another crew and be back in at midnight and don't be late. And I was there early, truck's ready to go, and it doesn't bother me.
What type of job, you're into bigger dirt work stuff now. We were talking before the show. What type of jobs do you like doing most? Is that shifting into bigger projects, or do you still enjoy doing the hardscape?
Yeah, so it's nice, like reset. I don't like doing the same thing. I could never work in an office. I couldn't do the same thing over and over. It's definitely gearing up towards that bigger dirt work stuff. I have the equipment to do it. I can do a lot of it by myself. It does make it difficult. The hardscape is just so much manual labor. I mean, when you're moving those blocks, they're 86 pounds a piece, pallet after pallet. I just did one a couple weeks ago, and 100% by myself. And it just makes you feel good. It just kind of resets it. I don't like doing the same thing, but yes, I am gearing up towards that big scale site development stuff.
Once you get up to that level, are you going to start bringing guys on to run?
I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
But right now it's working out, doing it myself, and the insurance on yourself versus all your workers' comp and all that stuff it's night and day difference. So it's all numbers. It doesn't lie. When it's all down in front of you, when it gets to that point of where I want to bring on those guys, because if you want good guys, you got to pay for them. You're never going to get someone that's doing top tier work for bottom class pay. You got to be paying more than anybody else if you want that output that's better than anybody else.
What type of big equipment do you have?
We've got the John Deere 200 excavator, which is like a 50,000 pound, 25 ton machine, haul truck, 700 dozer, and then my smaller machines. The biggest thing is the tilt rotator. That's another thing, another tool, efficiency thing. That's a complete game changer. What that is it's a head that goes on the end of the excavator that spins 360. You can dig in any direction. Backfill. I mean, it's unbelievable. To the average person, whoop-de-doo. But someone in the industry, it's something that you have to have nowadays, in my eyes. It was a big process. It got shipped over from Sweden. This was before they had a dealer in the U.S. and all that. And it cost a lot of money. It's basically a whole nother machine on the end of that excavator stick.
Really?
Yes. And it's worth every penny. If again, the numbers don't lie. I mean, that does the work of easily 2 guys a year. No insurance on it. Well, minimal insurance. It's not like workers' comp or anything like that. It's never late. It doesn't complain. It's not tired. It's a game changer.
So it sounds like you invest heavily in equipment that makes your life easier.
Big time. Big time.
You're able to do that at this point. When you had started out, was there ever a struggle? Like, all right, how did you manage that?
You just do it. And it's one of those things that you have to experience.
So just more labor intensive, you're saying? You just, okay.
Just nonstop. And that's what makes you appreciate all the equipment. Because a lot of these guys are buying this stuff, but they don't understand the backbones. You have to master just a regular excavator before you get this Encon thing, because it's just going to be a complete waste of money. You need to understand the efficiencies of doing it with a shovel versus an excavator. A good operator is a good laborer. You've got to master that before you work your way up.
Yeah.
Because you see it all the time. These guys get these machines, rent these machines, and they just destroy a job site or whatever. It's a mess. And they're making it 10 times harder, but they don't really know the difference. It just, I don't know. I'm thankful that I got to start from the bottom, earn my way up, and it makes you respect everything and appreciate everything a lot more.
Do you fluctuate brands?
I've been very loyal to Bobcat for all my small equipment anyway. It was the same thing. The dealer, I was super young. They'd rent me machines. They just always had my back. If I needed something after hours, I could pick it up. Just always helped me out. So that's just where my loyalties lied.
As far as renting versus owning, what's your take? Obviously now you own a lot of your stuff. Would you go that same route again, or do you find a benefit to renting?
I don't like renting. That's why I think I have so much equipment, because you just get in that pinch, and then you're in a time crunch of, wow, I'm paying this much money. I got to rush to do something. And that's just not how I do things. It's going to be right no matter what. If it takes me an extra day, so be it. There's obviously a lot of specialized stuff that I have to rent here and there, which is fine. But I like owning it. I don't know, just even your guys, they respect it more, take care of your stuff and all that. I just like owning it.
Yeah. Do you find maintenance and fixing though, like so you're owning your own stuff to save time because you don't have to rent it and you're more efficient, but you also have the back end of it. You got to keep up on filters, fluids. You break something, that's on Jeramiah, that's not on Fink or whoever,
Yep.
Do you think there's a break-even point with that as far as the time goes invested?
It's just time management, really. So like a rain day, like today, I would be doing maintenance, filters. You just always make that time. There's always something to do. It's 7 days a week. It's not always the same thing 7 days a week, but that's what I try to do on weekends is my paperwork, maintenance stuff, and I keep very good records of that. So like in the shop, I've got a whiteboard that has every machine on it. If I'm using something and I notice something's a little off, I'll write it down on a list. So that way when it's not a major problem then. It's something that can be prolonged. So when I do have the time, I can fix it, nip it in the butt before it becomes a big problem. And maintenance is a huge thing. Another system, all my equipment is basically brand new. As soon as it's outside of warranty, down the road. It sounds crazy, but for me, it's a system that works. I'm not fixing stuff. I'm not doing any major repairs. You get top dollar for when you trade it in. The dealer knows that I take very good care of my stuff. I don't even need to send him pictures. Say, hey, I'm looking for a new excavator, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to trade this one in. Give them the VIN number. I bought it from them. They know exactly what it is. We'll give you X amount of money, and boom, they'll bring it, switch it out, and good to go.
Do you find running clean, good-looking equipment makes a difference?
Huge difference.
Yeah.
When you're on those high-end projects, people don't want junk in their yard. The guys, everyone's dressed nice. Obviously, you got to have. If you don't take yourself serious, no one else is going to take you serious. people don't want junk. They don't want mismatched trucks and garbage all over the place. When you show up with nice, clean trucks, nice, clean equipment, and you do perfect work, it speaks for itself. And that's something that, for advertising, I think that works very well for us, because all the time on jobs, we'll have a neighbor that comes over and say, wow, I was watching you guys. You guys do things very neat and clean. Can you give me an estimate for this over here? Yeah, no problem. We don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth.
None. No social media stuff? Not at all?
Barely any. If I post something on Facebook, it's just for something that I like, or something that I'm proud of. And I find that advertising in this industry can be a big waste of time, because it's people shopping around for the cheapest price. And I'm not going to be the cheapest price. I'll be the first one to tell you that, but my work is going to be better than anybody else's. What's
interesting too is you see a lot of people that push that advertising tremendously.
Yep.
And you see their work and you're like, oh my God, it's garbage.
Yep.
It's almost like good from far, far from good. It looks great in a picture, but you get there, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, and that's a big problem, is the average homeowner, wow, it looks great to them. But when you understand the industry and see all these little things that they're doing, it's just not it. I mean, I see these guys, something simple too is people post a lot of pictures, but their job site, there's tools everywhere. It looks like a bomb went off. I mean, that's the reason why our companies are there, is to make things neat and clean and organized. If you can't do that with your own equipment and stuff like that, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And my guys, I have weird things of just how you set shovels and rakes and stuff like that. So like when you're walking by, boom, you grab it, it's right there. Everything is neat and clean. If I notice something's getting a little disorganized, we stop everything that we're doing, and everything gets organized and reset. Because everybody's watching. No matter what you think, there's neighbors watching out of windows, cars driving by. Every little thing that you do gets noticed by somebody. Mm-hmm. And people notice a lot more than what you would think they would.
What's your favorite type of jobs to go after now? Is it going more towards dirt?
Yes. Just that big equipment. There's just something about it. I'll be doing that to the day I die. It's something I love. I grew up in my sandbox, sun up to sundown, and everything just got bigger and more expensive.
Yeah.
There's just nothing better than when you're just sitting there. To me, it's relaxing. That my brain is just focused on what I'm doing right there. It's something that I love to do, and it's just what I like to do.
So you've been growing very organically through word of mouth, like you just said. Do you ever turn down clients? Do people come in and you talk to them and you're like, nah, this is not going to work?
All the time. And that's one of my mentors too, taught me that, is you don't start making money until you learn to say no to work. And I didn't understand that. It took me years to understand that. And I'm like, this guy's crazy. Turning down work. If there's money on the table, like, let me go get it. Nope. You can tell right away. I don't get as many as I used to, but I just got one the other day. A phone call. Someone calls you up going, hey, I'm looking for a patio. Like, hey, I'm John Doe, blah, blah, blah. I live at so-and-so. Like, introduce yourself. You can tell who's serious and who's not. Like, that one, you weed that one right out. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested.
It's probably one of your buddies messing around with you.
Yeah, like, that's what it sounds like. And these people, like, it's just, it's crazy. But yes, you can tell. You can tell when you meet with people, you know, when someone wants something or just shopping around. And when you do it enough, you can read people just over the phone. And you can tell. Do you travel, or is most of your work local? Yeah, some of the bigger jobs we've traveled for. So we've been out in Watertown, we've been out in Massachusetts, New Paltz, Utica. So we do travel. I mean, it doesn't bother me. If the job makes sense, I'm going. What's the hardest part about being an owner operator when you have big equipment? I almost think it gets easier, honestly. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm paying somebody to move it on a lowboy. And once you meet those people, they're professionals at what they do. I don't have to worry about it. I make a phone call. Hey, this needs to go from here to there. Boom, they get it. They load it up. It's on the job. I show up in my pickup truck with my fuel. And so you don't mess with any trucking? Nope. Not just any of the big stuff. On a small scale you do? Yep, just my small equipment. But yeah, it's just you learn those people that are the professionals that are in the industry that you don't have to worry about. That's not an added weight that I want on my shoulders, is having to worry about, wow, my machine, I don't trust it with this guy. They've got their insurance, they handle it, pay them their money. That's one less thing I got to worry about. and I don't have to worry about it being late or something like that. He tells me it's going to be there. It's going to be there.
Just a rough count. How many pieces of equipment do you think you have? Larger stuff that you got to sit in to operate?
Probably around a dozen machines. I got the haul truck, 2 dozers, 2 skid steers, 3 excavators. And then we got our little micro machines for like little backyard stuff, which it technically counts, but not really. I mean, they're still expensive, but yeah.
A lot of people I've talked to have said I have equipment that sits when I'm not using it as well, but it's paid for. I look at it as a convenience. It's not costing me money, but a lot of people think that's just costing you money. It's sitting there. It's costing you money. I don't really know how to respond to that in a lot of different situations. Because I don't want to get into that conversation generally with that person, but have people ever said that to you? What's your take on that comment?
Yep. I just, for my system is I don't like debt. If I can't pay for it, it's not mine.
There's also depreciation though.
Yes. That's another good thing. As a good accountant, tells me when I need to buy something and get rid of this or whatever. That's something early on that I wish I did a little sooner, is have a good accountant, pay the money. But if my machine sits there, the big stuff, the little stuff is always going. That's always on a job to job to job. And the big stuff is basically your bread and butter. I'm not putting hours on it. It's not getting abused or anything like that. It's all pre-emission stuff. I was very selective of the equipment that I did want to buy. So I don't have those electrical problems. And basically they're lifetime machines. If you take care of them and maintain them, they're not costing me nothing.
Yeah, I think that's such a broad statement because there's different tiers of equipment, not only with size, but age. If you buy a used bulldozer, for example, that is 10 years old, it's already pretty much maxed out its depreciation. And as long as it runs, it's going to be worth X amount of dollars, right? If you don't rack up a cajillion hours on it. So that stuff, I see the cost is minimal. It might even go up in value as you hang on to it. But some of the newer things, I understand that point of view as you're taking that depreciation hit, even if you paid for it full on. So do you try and use those, or are you very selective with the new pieces that you buy, or do you buy everything new?
The big iron, no, because that's just a different ball game. To me, it just doesn't make sense. It comes back to the math. So that's everything that I have. My haul truck is a 97, but it's easy to work on, still easy to get parts, runs like a top, low hours. My dozer and excavator, they're a 2006, all pre-emissions, still easy to get parts for, bulletproof. But all my small stuff, that's all new all the time. That gets turned over, pickup trucks all the time. I keep a pickup truck 2 years. I do oil changes, brake pads down the road. You can't get attached to stuff. It's a tool. And it all comes down to numbers.
There's also one thing that people never consider, and that's every time you get in it and turn the key, it starts.
Yep.
So you're taking a hit on depreciation. As long as it's making you money, if it's reliable, you can justify that.
Yep. Yeah,
to some extent.
Your time is their most valuable thing. If I'm sitting there working on a truck, I'm paying for parts, my time. I'm not making money because I'm not doing something productive. And that's something that I learned really young, because when I started, I had junk. I mean, garbage. I was working for Straight Line. I'd come home. There's a picture my sister has of me passed out in the driveway, in a gravel driveway with a Sawzall in my hands, working under my truck, just zonked out, because I'm trying to get this truck going. And that's the last thing I want to be doing. If I had a new truck, boom, I could have got in the thing, done the job, been done. But you have to learn those things. So.
What's the next piece of equipment you want to buy?
Large track dump truck. Like a swamp dump truck. It's basically a haul truck, but it's on tracks. They're Marukas. It's a VDR 3000. They're big money.
Never heard of one.
Yeah. I rented one on a job that I did, and it was just a game changer.
With the weather around here lately, that would be very healthy.
Yeah, exactly. If I had it this year, we would have been in pretty good shape.
Do you do one job at a time?
I do. That's something I don't bounce around. So when I'm on a job, all my equipment's there, doesn't get mobilized to another one. Sometimes I'll move another set of equipment to another job, so it's staged there, ready to go. But when I start a job, it gets finished before we go to the next one.
Were you using any subs to help complete jobs, or are you doing it all?
All my own.
Okay.
I've had a couple. I tried that, and I just had a couple bad experiences. And it just comes back to me being a control freak. It's my name that's on the job. I don't want someone doing something stupid, showing up smoking cigarettes, mismatched clothes. I just nip that right in the butt before it's a problem. Do it myself, which it's tough, but I don't have to worry about those other things.
Yeah, it's easier for scheduling though.
Oh yeah, yep.
Because you know when you're going to get done. If you're relying on other people, the more people you rely on per job, the more chances you have of that schedule getting messed up.
Yep.
And one guy messes it up at the beginning, it pushes.
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
It's a chain reaction.
It is. So what separates a successful owner-operator from somebody that can't do it and fails? Do you have anything that you notice other than your meticulousness that's different about you?
It's all or nothing. And people don't, that's a fine line of people thinking their everything is everything. Like this is my life. When I'm laying in bed 2 a.m, I'm thinking about what I can do better for tomorrow. How can I load the machine on this trailer? What direction? So that way when I unload it, I don't have to turn, tear up any grass. It's those tiny little things, and it's your life. It's literally all or nothing. And I'm fortunate enough, this is what I love to do. It's not work to me. You got a lot of guys that they're working for the weekend. They want to go out in the bar and hang out. I mean, yes, you can make a living, but to get to that next step, it ain't going to happen doing it that way.
Somebody that's young in their teen years and wants to start doing what you're doing, do you have any advice for them?
Just stay focused. You got to surround yourself with good people. 90% of the time, your friend group is not those people you want to be surrounded with. At least growing up as a kid, your friend group as you grow, you always want to be looking up to people and learning and taking little things from a lot of different people and mashing them together into your own system. But it goes back to your buddies hanging out at the bar. You're not learning anything from them. You're not pushing yourself. You're not pushing each other. You're not growing.
How are you learning now? Do
You
you read?
I do. I read a lot. That's something that I say to a lot of people, and it blows their mind, is you'd be surprised how much you can learn from reading. And that's something that I did really early on, because it was before social media was real big and stuff like that. I'd buy brochures and flyers, grab them from suppliers, read through the whole thing. Learning all about different products, different things, all the machines. That's something I like to do. So I knew all the specs, weights, and just stupid stuff, but it evolves into something. But there is a lot of books, actual books that I read, and it just keeps you sharp. That's the biggest thing that I noticed. I can tell a big difference when I stop reading for a couple weeks and picking up a book. Your brain is just always right there when you're reading.
When do you read? You try and read before bed?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And it just tires out your mind in a different way instead of looking at your phone. And it's just good sleep. I mean, you're exhausted anyway, but if you can force yourself to read before you fall asleep, it's just a different type of...
What are you reading now? Are you got one currently?
For some reason, I've always liked World War II. I know everything about it, upside down, sideways. It's just something I've always respected. I mean, those guys did what they had to do. They didn't complain. And it's something that I try to put into my own life. Because complaining doesn't get you anywhere. It's a kind of a respect thing. I like true stuff. I like history. I mean, it's not really relevant to what I do, but there's still things that you can tie back to, and I don't know.
What book about World War II is your favorite?
There's Red Sand, what is it? Red Sand, or I don't even know the names of them. I rip through them so fast. Under my entire bed is just books. There's one that's about this German pilot and an American pilot that they basically shot each other down. The plane was hanging on, and the German pilot escorted this American pilot back towards Netherlands, which was like a neutral territory at the time. And he was wondering his whole life why he didn't shoot him down. And they met each other back in like the early 2000s and got to meet each other. It was a book that I couldn't put down. It was 400 pages ripped right through it in one sitting. It was just cool. I mean, I'm summarizing it, but it's just a true story that came full circle. It was cool to me. So
I'm going to ask you how you stay motivated. I mean, that sounds pretty motivating. Just to read that, you're like, that gets you up and gets you going. But are there any other tactics that you have to stay motivated on a day-to-day?
I don't know. I'm just a psychopath. I wake up excited. There's never a day that I wake up going, oh man, I got to go to work. Like I literally 90% of the time I'm up before my alarm clock. The dog's looking at me like, dude, are you for real right now? Like I want to stay in bed.
Yeah, right. He's ready to go,
but
man.
most of the time he is. But when we work, well, he's not really doing much. But when we got those long hours, I mean, there's days when he wakes up and I move and he just doesn't even flinch. Mm-hmm. Let's go, dude. Get in the truck. It's time to go.
Well, dude, I got a couple questions for you before we wrap up here. They're going to be quick fire questions.
Okay.
I want first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right. What's your favorite machine to run?
Dozer.
What brand?
I like John Deere.
John Deere.
Yep.
Most satisfying job you ever completed?
Probably the one that I just telling you, but that first one that I did. Mm-hmm. There's something about that. It was a small job, but.
All right, stop dragging on. I said quick. What's your go-to supplier?
D'Agostino Block. Yep.
Dream project.
Dream projects. Big site development job, huge profit. And I don't know. I every job's a dream job, really. You pick and choose.
One tool or machine you could not live without?
That Encon tilt rotator, 100%.
If you had to start over tomorrow, you can elaborate a little on this. With just $10,000 and your knowledge, how would you do it? What would be your first move?
My first move, I don't know. I would just probably stick that 10 grand in the bank, so it was kind of a safety net, and I would do the same thing I did. I really wouldn't change much. I got very fortunate. I was surrounded by good people that pushed me in the right direction. There's not a lot that I would change, really.
You wouldn't you wouldn't buy a tool, you would just hold on to it for safety?
Yep. Because I would make it work until I needed it, and that's, I don't know.
All right, favorite pair of work boots?
Definitely Red Wing. Yep.
Oh my God.
100%. I go to the Red Wing store every time. It's a 416 soft toe with they call them super soles. The insoles make a big difference, and the last probably dozen pairs.
Oh, you are a psycho. That's good to know.
Yeah, literally. Every 6 months, a pair of boots is shot.
Yeah.
Going right out.
All right. Well, Jeremiah, we're out of time, brother.
That was fast.
Believe it or not.
That went way faster than I thought.
Thank you for coming on. I had a blast. How can people get a hold of you?
I don't advertise, so. No.
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's Kutey Landscaping. I'm on Facebook, but it's basically just my personal stuff. It's basically what we do.
If you guys are liking what you're seeing and hearing, please check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Scott Raffensperger. With me today, Jeramiah Kutey. Thanks again. See you next time.